All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to DevNet's A Decade of Transformation, A Future of Innovation webinar. My name is Adrian Liesiu, and I will be your host for this webinar for the next hour. In this webinar, first of all, we want to celebrate our accomplishments as a community over the past 10 years and have a glimpse towards the future and what the future will bring for us. We have some special guests to discuss all of this. We'll start with Shannon McFarland, Vice President of Cisco DevNet. Denise Lee is also here. She's Vice President of Engineering Sustainability Office at Cisco. And last but not least, Kelly Fitzpatrick. She's a Senior Industry Analyst at Redmonk. We also have Jeff Bull and Matt DiNapoli in the background monitoring the chat and answering questions as they come in. But rest assured, we also have a session, a small section at the end of about 10 minutes where we'll answer questions live. So make sure you stick around, and also make sure you stick around for some announcements that are going to be coming out about some challenges. So there's going to be a lots of announcements, and it's going to be a great webinar.
Thanks for everyone for joining today. We are really excited to have this event. It's been a long time in the planning. Last August, we turned 10 years old and had some in-person events at Cisco Live APJC, and then recently in Cisco Live EMEA in Amsterdam. And this one is dedicated specifically to our 10-year celebration. So I'm very happy to have all of our guest speakers on here and to have our community with us. This is the best of this event, is really to let you know what we're celebrating in the past 10 years and certainly what we're doing now and into the future. So as we kind of take a look back at the last 10 years, what was it that we were trying to accomplish with Cisco DevNet? Well, the first was we wanted to establish Cisco as a leader in the programmable infrastructure space. How is it that you can programmatically interact with Cisco's products and solutions through APIs, through infrastructure as code, and just general education? And through that course, we wanted to discover who you were. What were your needs? What were the friction points you had in your job? What were the things that you needed to get done from a developer and an operations point of view, and then build content and enablement behind that. We also wanted to look through and build a standard for things like APIs at Cisco, so that when a product came out and you were going to programmatically interact with it with things like an API, that you were doing so in the least most friction-filled way as possible. And along the way, just build the DevNet brand. So fast forward, here we are 10 years later. And what are we up to? Well, we're up to the same things. We're here to protect the core. So those core responsibilities we have with all of the different personas that we have built a community around. And along the way, we are absolutely fine-tuning and updating what we do with the latest tech, trends, and tools. And we'll talk more about that here shortly. We also wanted to make sure that anything that came out new from a Cisco solution point of view were well documented, were available for you from a training point of view, that you had access to labs and so forth. And that is leading us kind of into where we are for enriching the next generation. We also want to make room for things like new personas and new tech. Again, we'll be talking about that. But how do you interact with that new tech? Build trust between you and tools and Cisco in a way that you can confidently do your job. Then finally, just reignite the brand, continue to grow the community. So as we take a look at what we're really focused on now and into the future is really around these four key experience areas. The first one is, again, around API quality. This is something that we started back in 2016, that internally within the organization, we wanted to evaluate and score APIs. We wanted to really build an API first methodology and mindset across all of the engineering areas of Cisco. We wanted to build tool sets inside of our own infrastructure so that when we build an API, that thing is properly scored, we are properly documenting it, we are doing change logs, those types of things, and really, again, give you a low toil consumption of APIs. And so we've come a long way, and we got a long way to go in that space, but that is something that we're going to continue to be dedicated to as DevNet. The next is we've learned a lot in the last 10 years of how you like to learn. Sandboxes, learning labs, DevNet zone, all of these different things that you consume from us from a learning point of view, we have really tried to fine tune along the way. We've also really built strong partnerships with folks like the Learning and Search team, Cisco U, and so forth to build a better together education strategy. No matter how you come to Cisco to learn, we want you to have the best look and feel experience you can, and whatever your exit criteria is it a certification or is it to go build something? We want you to have the best experience there. But ultimately, learning is one thing, but building is really the DevNet goal. We want you to take that learning and convert it into doing something with it. And so ultimately, our goal is to make you builders, to facilitate a way for you to take your learning, turn it around, and in your daily job, do something effective with that builder experience. And we'll talk more about what we're doing in that space here shortly. And then finally, all of these greenfield experiences, things like AI and sustainability and observability and quantum and all of these new areas, when you are going to intersect with those technologies, how do you get your job done in the least most painful way? So we want to reveal that through best practices, revealing standards approach, having quick starts available to you, and more effectively working code modules, not just code snippets. And so when you glue all of these things together, as we move into the next era in our discussion here, we want to make sure that you understand the use case alignment to those techs and tools. So three areas that we're adding into the DevNet environment are sustainability, AI, and observability. We're already well underway in the observability space, and we are certainly adding in already new labs, for example, with generative AI. But sustainability is one of those spaces where we are aligning, and we're going to be hearing a lot about that space from Denise here shortly. But our relationship with these technologies are the same relationships we're having with all the technologies we've already been supporting for the past 10 years. And our goal here is enabling a programmatic relationship with these tools and with these technologies. So let's look at what we're going to be doing over the next couple of quarters and beyond in this space. So again, our goal is to build trust between you, our community, and these new things, solutions, products, tech, and so forth. So all of those things on the left-hand side that we talked about before are core strategic responsibilities to you as a community. We are going to reinforce those in these three areas. The first one around sustainability, again, Denise is going to walk us through kind of the state of the union of where sustainability is, especially in Cisco. But from us, we have learned that APIs are a methodology for abstracting complexity away in these multi-technology and heterogeneous environments. And so our journey into sustainability is going to be to partner with Denise and her team to look at what APIs are in flight, what types of problems you're having when you're building sustainability solutions or interacting with sustainability products and platforms. We also want to continue the motion of automating away the complexity of consuming these technologies. This is something that we've been doing for a long time with Ansible and Terraform and other infrastructure as code spaces. We want to continue that motion with sustainability. Now, to be honest with you, this is my slide. And what I could have done better with this slide is I could have turned observability on a 90-degree axis here and have it actually span all of sustainability and AI. Why? Because we need to see everything if we're going to manage and interoperate with it. But observability is a space that we have been dealing with for quite some time, all the way back with OpenTelemetry, AppD, the FSO, and the Cisco observability platform. These are things that we've been working on for quite some time. And so we will be interconnecting observability to sustainability and then finally artificial intelligence. The final place here on the artificial intelligence side is we have been doing predictive AI for a long time as a company and as an industry. So where we are with predictive AI is to continue down that motion of understanding based upon previous historical events what we're going to do in the future based upon that information. But what generative AI brings into us is the ability for us to go through and make recommendations about the future, and then ultimately, generatively or creatively add more capability and functionality to the action element of our job. So at some point, we're going to figure out that there is this trust that we have with this new technology called generative AI, the technologies and the tools that we build to interact with it. And we're going to conditionally allow that technology to help us, not replace us, but help us in our job. So whether it's code recommendation, code completion, or we are actually making recommendations on how to streamline our CI/CD process or better do API security all the way in the shift left era of our job. So whatever it looks like in that space, we want to help introduce those technologies and help recommend what you can do in your own space with that. So in closing in my particular section before we have a great conversation with Kelly, what you can expect from us is to be focused on you. This is what we've been doing for the last 10 years, is building a very robust community with our customers, our partners, and even our fellow Cisco employees. And we're going to be maintaining that commitment with you from a clear focus. What you've gotten from us for the last 10 years is what you're going to get from us for the next 10 years and beyond. We're just getting started in this space, but I think what we're really excited about is, again, continuing to build our relationship with your community and allowing these new tools, these new techs, and these new solutions to emerge in a way that allows we, Cisco, and you, our customers and partners, to interact with us programmatically in the most effective way. And so with that, I really appreciate you folks being here. I'm happy to introduce Kelly. Kelly's going to be joining us from RedMonk, and we're going to kind of talk through the state of the union in the developer space. So welcome, Kelly.
Thank you so much for allowing me to join you today to celebrate 10 years of DevNet.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. So I think that, you bring a lot of context and history and understanding of what's taking place in the developer realm of any persona type. And so of that few minutes of level setting that I gave, what with all the noble efforts that we've got with DevNet, where are we in an industry, and where do we find the goals and the state of the developers now, and how does that match up with our strategy?
That's an excellent question, Shannon. And to clarify, so I'm an analyst at RedMonk, as you can see from the slide. We are a developer-focused analyst firm where developer is defined very broadly as covering a whole bunch of technical practitioners, so not just app developers. So I feel that there's probably a lot of folks out there who may or may not identify with developer, but have that developer spirit regardless of your job title. And going to your question, back to your question, Shannon, I think that in terms of where we are as an industry when we look at developers, which is something that I personally could talk about for like 2 or 3 hours, but I will not, in respect that other people have brilliant things to say here today. But I think for me, the TLDR is that 2024 is both a wonderful and terrifying time to be a developer. And on the good side of that, there is almost any kind of technology that you could possibly want for building, testing, maintaining, operating software. It is out there. So it's almost like a cornucopia of tooling out there that developers and other practitioners have access to in various ways. Now, the flip side of that is that with this cornucopia of options comes a lot of choices to wade through to figure out how to kind of stitch together the specific tool chain that you need to do a specific job. So, along with that comes like, what do I use? How do I figure out what to do, whether on my pet project or at the enterprise level? And then think about the kind of overhead of having to cobble together those tool chains and then maintaining them. So that's something where we think about, we call the developer experience gap. And we think about it as any time that a developer has to kind of borrow from doing what they really want, which is like writing code and building things. I love this vocabulary of building things, in order to kind of maintain these tool chains. So that's like one of the things that we're seeing out there. Another is that this is also a golden age for tools that are there to help you learn, to help you figure out how to do your job. So we are in a golden age of documentation, of education, of community building, that there's really one of the kind of DevNet accomplishments I read through as I was looking through the kind of 10-year timeline was the point where DevNet, part of the DevNet project was like, we are going to deliver documentation in something that is not a PDF. And now, of course, we have things like Docs Like Code, which, people like Ann Gentle, Cisco's own Ann Gentle has helped, kind of bring into being to kind of, improve how we deliver things like this to developers. Now, again, there's a downside to it, and that is that the expectation for developers to know all of the things is just extremely high these days. And that comes partly from this ongoing trend of everything kind of shifting left into the developer purview, whether developers want it there or not. So security shifting left, testing shifting left. We even have heard talk about observability shifting left. And this just really results in a very high cognitive load for developers, just like, kind of end of story. And then I think that, the third kind of state of developers, like life of developers that I want to address here is just the pace of innovation in the tech industry right now is absolutely mind-blowing. So it is an exciting time to be building things. This means that we've seen amazing advances in areas like all of the ones that you kind of highlighted. So observability, AI, and sustainability. And we've really seen people pushing the envelope in terms of the art of the possible. And the downside of this is that, along with this, we've seen increase in both complexity and then also the complexity of like trying to figure out what a developer has to do, what a developer has to learn in order to do their job. So there's so much, again, to kind of wade through with this like emerging technology, and folks are trying to figure out, what do I need to learn? Who do I trust about what I need to learn? So I think these elements about, what comes next, who do I trust in order to figure out how to get there, are kind of top concerns for the developers at least I talk to today.
Yeah, that's great, Kelly. If there's a lot going on in the developer space and more things are headed their way, what are some of the things that are kind of either accelerating or creating friction through that process?
And I'm going to say one of the things that you talked about, which we've been hearing in almost every conversation that we have as analysts, is generative AI. So I think that's probably a really good place to start. Because if you think about where generative AI comes into the developer kind of purview, it pops up both in terms of, here is something that that is a general technology that people know about outside of the tech industry, right? There's buzz around Gen AI, and it's not just in the tech industry. This isn't just like containers, which really like overhauled the tech industry however many years ago, but you don't really hear people talking about it outside of the tech industry. Gen AI is everywhere. And this basically means that developers are involved not only in having to figure out how to build applications that leverage generative AI, but also figuring out how to navigate the generative AI-based tooling that has been made available to them. And while there's a whole bunch of different avenues, I think that we could kind of pursue in talking about this. The one that we've been looking at that has really kind of shown up very early on is this idea of generative AI code assistance. So what is generative AI doing in terms of the kind of production of code? And one of my colleagues, Dr. Kate Holterhoff, has been looking into different types of code assistance. And in the research that she's done, she's found that code assistance can be great, especially for early career developers in terms of kind of helping them like learn the ropes. But when we talk to, say, like middle career or senior developers, the kind of look or the overall take on code assistance is they're kind of like a really talented intern and require a lot of supervision, and the code that are produced through them require like a lot of curation. So there's this like general concern for things like code quality. Although, this changes every day. So that's where we are now. We don't know what's going to happen next. And, only yesterday, there was a whole bunch of buzz around the first generative AI software developer. I don't know if anyone was following that.
Yeah.
So who knows what's going to happen tomorrow? Like, this is a very interesting space, and there's a lot of opportunity there. But also back to your question of, how, like, this is something that is potentially causing friction for developers as well.
That's great. Yeah, thanks for that clarification. Is anything I can answer for you?
I have so many questions for you, but I know that you have a lot to do in this hour. So I talked a lot about some of the challenges that are kind of out there. And to my mind, one of the things that we can do to help developers meet these challenges is to figure out ways to kind of meet them where they are, acknowledge that these challenges kind of exist, and figure out how to do some of the things that you're already talking about, like leverage APIs, abstract away complexity, automate all of the things, and create resources for it. So given all that, can you speak a little bit about how or does DevNet help developers meet these challenges?
Yeah, that's great. And you said it actually earlier, Kelly, the age of, golden age of documentation, right? This has always been a thorn in the side for developers. I mean, you've got one group that says my code is my documentation, and then you got the entire rest of the world who has to look at that code and make sense of something that they shouldn't actually have to make sense from, right? And so documentation, when we go out and look at open API specifications and we publish them to developer.cisco.com, that is one place where we help developers. Matter of fact, we recently worked with Meraki on a user research study, and one of the things that folks said, it's like, I'm sure developer.cisco.com is an amazing place, but I bookmark only the APIs that I go and consult with on my day job, right? And so that's a very important, data point for us to understand how people consume what we produce. And so documentation, APIs, infrastructure as code, elements, all of those things are very important. I mean, Adrian has done a great job with us, kind of like walking through things like Meraki, Python SDKs, right? How do you actually go out and use this thing in your day job? And so that's one of the places that we're focusing even more so in optimizing the documentation experience. The other ones are that we have done a pretty good job in the last 10 years of doing what I call foundational education. What is Python? What is GitHub? What is Ansible? But I think what we've got to step up our game in is that how do we go from a hello world to a hello Cisco, where Cisco is always a part of the learning ritual for any of these foundational technologies, but also we need to move more kind of in the intermediate to advanced realm. When people want to grab a module off the shelf for sustainability against a Meraki device, for example, that we actually have that. So that's not something they have to worry about learning. It's something that they can just grab. We, kind of explain how to use that functionality and move on. And so those are two key areas that I think that we're focused on in the next, quarters and beyond.
I am never going to argue against a focus on documentation. Like I am biased in that way. So I commend you for that. And then final question from me. So you talked a lot about the future in your keynote. And as vice president of DevNet, you're like running the show. What do you hope to see in the next 10 years?
Yeah, the next 10 years is growth of our community and the quality of what we get back from the community and what we give to the community. I mean, a key part of what we do in DevNet is advocacy. And in many organizations, advocacy is outbound. We believe advocacy is bidirectional. We need to advocate on behalf of our community, back into engineering and back into DevNet and back into learning, et cetera. It's not just about us trying to educate and enable folk outbound, but it is learning from them. And so things like, Jeff, who leads our community effort, the things that we're trying to really expand in our community outreach is to get a better kind of grassroots effort back into Cisco around what the friction points are for APIs and so forth. So community and bidirectional advocacy is really what I see for the next 10 years. And then just a rinse and repeat of new tools, new tech, and new best practices. As they come, let's not wait 6, 7 months to get that stuff into the hands of our community. Let's be ahead of that curve and really, kind of help in the programmatic relationship with those tools and technologies.
Thank you. I am very much looking forward to seeing that kind of come into existence in the next 10 years or continue to happen.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you very much, Kelly. I appreciate you being here with us, Red Monk. I mean, if you don't know Red Monk, you should know Red Monk. They have been attached to this industry for a long period of time, and so we appreciate having Kelly and the Red Monk folks with us on this today. So thanks for that. Next up, I'm going to welcome my partner in crime on the VP of Engineering for Sustainability side, Denise Lee. Denise, take it away.
Thank you so much, Shannon. Kelly and Shannon, all the shout outs to sustainability is just getting me so excited over here to talk to this community, especially today. Let's jump right in. When you hear the word sustainability, often it's this buzzword of like, what does that mean? Yes, I care about the planet, but it's a lot of buzzwords. And I'm here to have a conversation about it's actually much more than a buzzword when you start to digest and understand the role IT has to play in it being a business imperative for the digitization, the transformation, and all the changes that are happening across companies today. You don't actually have to look very far. A lot of the stats that you see here have come out just in the last 9 months from various organizations. Intel did a sustainable CTO advisory board and conducted a study across the industry. And by and large, across the board, they're saying organizations care about sustainability, not just because it's the right thing to do, but they are actually seeing it not be a cost driver for the business, but actually propelling the business forward and accelerating what they need to do. You don't have to look very far. There's headlines every day. In fact, there's great coverage from Fox News to the New York Times, even today, about how we're out of power in the data centers. So when you look at data center physical CapEx, there's models that are looking at over $500 billion being put into physical infrastructure over the next handful of years by 2027. We're looking at liquid cooling, which is not new, right? It's been around since the 60s, but now we're talking about liquid cooling growing at rates of, upwards close to 30%. If we can go to the next slide, please. AI, of course, this little thing called AI comes along, and all of a sudden, data centers are surging faster than we have capacity and power. So the article today in the front of New York Times talks about how the US is out of power. In the state of Virginia alone, from 2019, there are 75 new data centers and more being planned. So we think about what's happening in all of this and how sustainability is truly creating a business opportunity here. We know that data centers are out of power. We know that with generative AI, there is a draw on compute that is insatiable, and it's almost hard to comprehend. And so what we're trying to do at Cisco is build that entire stack, work with all the right partners and all the right ecosystems, peeking ahead at the roadmaps for the chips that can no longer be air-cooled, for the power distribution systems that need some kind of direct-to-chip cooling, that need more power efficiency, that need enough GPUs in a rack to get you upwards of 50, 100 kilowatts a rack. And then we go to smart buildings, right? And we look at the campus space and all the things that are changing in terms of end-to-end architecture working together for it to be safe. You have good wayfinding. You have people who are hybrid work. You're at home. People are in the office. How are all of the rooms you're in kitted out to make sure that it's a truly collaborative and inclusive experience? How do you work with the building management systems? Oh, if you can stay on the last one. The building management systems in a building, there's typically over 30 different building management systems in any one building. So if we consider Well, the opportunity to take IT and OT, which we've been talking about for years, but that opportunity to converge and the opportunities to have applications, to have all these things work together, to not only be more energy efficient and optimize the energy that's going through all of these things, but to make a better experience. Imagine being able to come into an office because you have a great experience seeing your colleagues working, alone in a quiet room, going out into a shared workspace, going for training. All in the course of a day, we are now clocking in some of our smart building architectures that a single person is inhabiting 6 different workspaces inside of one day. So our technology can help do that. And what we're looking at when we're looking at our roadmaps across sustainability, of course, not just the hardware side, but then how does that get translated to the application layer? How does that get translated to all the use cases to make this easier? And I'm so excited that Kelly's here because generative AI is only going to make this faster and easier to deploy and get out there for everyone to use. When I think about the industry solutions, this is where things get even more exciting. I can only imagine all the various industries that are represented and all the different spaces that the DevNet community gets to play in. But take a look at every one of these industries and think, what's a common theme through all of this? They're all connecting more and more devices and things. All of them are drawing upon more and more power. And the amount of data that's coming off of all of these devices and things needing to come together and network not just the data that as we have for the past 30, 40 years, but now being able to network power the same way. And the ability to network power and data sometimes on that same line with power over Ethernet and other technologies that are coming become infinitely more exciting because you're going to need not only the networking component of that, but the security and the usability and the automation of all of it. So I think sky's the limit in terms of industry solutions when it comes to this community on top of the Cisco stack and what we can do. And what we're doing to make that easy for all of you to get started is really at the energy management layer. What Shannon mentioned in terms of how Cisco is working, not only in our core, our core bread and butter of networking equipment, but we need to make sure that we are standardizing across the right energy management metrics. And there's actual real engineering that goes into measurement of power. And we're influencing those standard bodies and boards across the industries to make sure that we have a more accurate measurement of power. And you're going to see these 5 core metrics at the bottom be pervasive and standardized across Cisco's entire portfolio. And we're pushing to make sure that is standardized across the industry so that you can make those decisions on things like green path determination as you're building your APIs. When you have downtime, how you're building in energy cost, as well as the way that you're architecting and programming these different APIs. And so I get really excited about all these things. This is the foundation part across Cisco's very broad portfolio. I'm very excited to say the engineering teams have unanimously voted that this needs to be standardized and will be rolling out across all of our platforms. When I think of what's next, and I think about this community, the OpenAI tools is going to allow sustainability use cases, a lot of them that you see on the left-hand side, just as food for thought, to go at a faster click. And when you apply this to all of the industries that we talked about, from EV charging to hospitals to manufacturing, I think I read somewhere recently that America is at a 50-year historical all-time high in manufacturing investment. So a lot happening, a lot to be connected, and a lot of data that's needed to make sense of how we're prioritizing these use cases to minimize the footprint on our environment, to make sure manufacturing is going into the right renewable energy, that we're transitioning to clean energy with the usage of all of our additional power and compute that's needed to look at this current point in time where we are in our technology history. Those numbers and the compute that we need are going to completely obliterate our net zero goals and commitments if we're not careful. And so it really excites me to be here with this community, Shannon. This slide is I think, a good kickoff to sort of what's next. But before we get to some of those exciting announcements, if we just go and flash the next 2 slides, our teams have been really hard at work across the end-to-end part of our portfolio. And we invite you to learn more about these solutions Every one of these, and we'll make these available later, but every one of these has industry research, Cisco's portfolio deep dive, much more detail than what I've gone through today. And what I think you'll see is that the nice thing about sustainability is there really are no competitors. We all need to do this collectively. So that movement to more openness, more standardization, more modularity, the idea to partner with partners and vendors that typically aren't in our ecosystem, but absolutely are a core component to who we're working with today, right? Whether you're in the data center and you're looking at cooling distribution unit and power distribution and the envelope of facilities and connectivity, or you're in an office space and you're looking at PoE lighting and furniture that's more modular, we're actually working with a lot of these vendors in a very different way than we have historically. It opens up even more use cases and opportunities for this community. And so with that, Shannon, I think we have some exciting news and things to talk about with this group.
We do. Thanks a lot for that, Denise, and appreciate you being here. We've got a great, fun, community-oriented announcement to make here. And so we would like to talk about what we're calling Build for Better. So Build for Better is an opportunity for you to showcase your knowledge, your experience, especially in the area of programmability against Cisco solutions and general technology overall. So if we kind of go into the details of what Build for Better is going to be, we are on Happy Pi Day through Earth Day, April 22nd. So starting today through the 22nd, we want you to go to developer.cisco.com and Build for Better and register for a coding challenge that we have here at Cisco. And so what we're going to be doing with this is basically a process that you can utilize, a means of technologies, a means of use cases, whatever it is that you want to put together. We've got a few sample things here, like you could use maybe build an AI bot with sustainability and with APIs and so forth. It could be energy consumption. It could be smart building energy efficiencies. But really, our goal here for this particular coding challenge is to bring together observability, sustainability, AI, and general developer tool sets together to build a functioning system, and we're going to be judging that. And we're going to have up to 3 winners out of our DevNet community. You're going to receive, the winners are going to receive a mentorship session with some DevNet experts and $500 in credits to our Cisco store. So let's look at what you need to do to get involved in this. So first, you're going to sign up for DevNet. And go to the links that we have provided. You're going to go in there and fill out some information about your GitHub repo that you're going to submit your code to. And then we're going to go through a judging and announcement phase. We'll announce the winner on May 1st. So let's talk a little bit more about how you can actually find out from judges and so forth what this looks like. So starting on Tuesday, March 19th at 9 a.m. Pacific, we're going to have some of our judges be on LinkedIn for you to be able to have basically a Q&A with them on what is the sustainability challenge and AI and observability and how the code submission works, and then ultimately what the judging criteria looks like. So we are extremely excited to announce this together. Is there anything you want to add, Denise, into this code challenge?
Yeah, a couple things. First, all of those QR codes I gave you earlier, I'm not going to say I didn't help, but those are a great kickoff point for anyone looking to join this challenge. It should be a lot of food for thought and some things to get your wheels turning. Shannon, I don't know if I heard you mention like who's eligible to participate in this challenge.
Yeah, everyone. So anybody that's in our community, even Cisco employees. So we've got kind of, our community has never been oriented towards any one segment. If you are a student or you're a customer or you're a partner or you're a Cisco employee, we want to showcase your skills and your innovation and your creativity. And so this is wide open to everybody. When you go through the registration process, you'll actually see, it'll ask you a little bit of information about yourself and where you're joining us from. But yeah, this is wide open to everyone that wants to join.
Perfect. The other thing I would add is, why are we so fixated on energy and why is that so important? I mean, save the obvious that we all need energy to keep this going. But when you look at the goals and commitments for sustainability, getting to net zero, getting to carbon neutral, the accounting for all of that comes down to what's called greenhouse gas emissions accounting, right? And all of that comes down to power is a really big component of that, right? I won't go into all the details, but power is a really big component of that. So as you're building, know that information from the grid is publicly available. You can go to IEA, electricity maps have some good information. We can provide some, but we're building that telemetry into, like, we have our own telemetry, we're marrying that up with the publicly available information. So as you're thinking through cost, as you're looking at energy and you're building with these open AI tools, just a sneak peek, there's a lot of open source out there with the information you need to factor in what the energy mix looks like, how much renewable energy, what the grid is, and what the cost of energy is. So take a look. Some of the materials we've provided there also will give you some pointers.
Excellent. Thank you for that. So with that, I appreciate you joining us. We're going to now, open it up. I think we've got Adrian and Matt and Jeff are going to help us with a bunch of the questions that we've got. So hang on with us. So we've got quite a bit left to talk through here. So thank you for joining us, and take it away, folks.
Great, perfect. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Denise, Kellyanne. That was really insightful. So next, like we were saying, questions and answers, right? We reserve some time for you folks. Matt, Jeff, I see a lot of questions came through.
All right.
Jeff, this is actually a question for you. So early in his talk, Shannon mentioned, working on community and trying to build the community further beyond what we've done in the last 10 years. That's your primary role now. Can you give us an idea on some of the initiatives that we're talking about within our team to extend the DevNet community?
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, that's like one of my favorite things to do. It's my job now, but I love doing this and talking with everyone in the chat. So thank you. DevNet exists because of community members. I mean, the whole reason this was created, you saw the video earlier, is because of all the people here with us in the video, that you watched earlier, here in the chat with us and doing things. So it's rad. And a couple tactical things that we've been working on is, first and foremost, we've been doing some reshaping of what we're calling the DevNet Hub. It's basically the space in community.cisco.com where we have our support forums. So we're doing a little bit of reshaping to clean that up and make it a lot easier for anyone to find the support they need in that location. It's needed some TLC for a little while, so we're working on that. We also just recently launched a WebEx team. So if you're familiar with how to work in WebEx rooms and kind of chat and things like that, we have a WebEx team with a bunch of different rooms in there of different topics. So as members want to have a more synchronous conversation with others, you can join. I'll drop in the chat in just a minute the bot that you can use to just add yourself to that team and get chatting with anybody that you want to. And actually, it works really well that we have this image on the screen of our DevNet Share Your Experience area, which we do at Cisco Lives. And we're actively working on how to further extend the input that all the community members, customers, partners, whoever it is, provide us at that event through the Share Your Experience into something that we can follow up with folks afterwards on. So just a lot of really interesting ways to hopefully help everyone who's part of the community feel more a part of it and provide input and have conversations and those sorts of things. So Matt, something else that did come up, and this is a little bit tactical, but I want to throw it at you because we've had a lot of cool changes recently related to it. So we've had some folks asking about our DevNet sandboxes, and there's some changes there. So can you kind of help us understand what's changed with the DevNet sandboxes recently and what people can expect in the near future?
Oh, that's an excellent question, Jeff. So I think it was around December or so, you guys might have seen a change to the sandbox space. It was more than just a facelift, though. There was a whole back-end infrastructure change, and a lot of that was done so that our sandbox team can start to provide more dynamic and on-demand experiences as part of the sandbox engagement. As we all know, for some of the DevNetters that have been around for the last 10 years, or those of you that are just new, the sandbox has been very pivotal in our experience with DevNet, and kind of got a little bit long in the tooth with the technologies that we're doing all of the reservations and spinning up and spinning down the technologies. So Mike Mackay, our esteemed sandbox manager, and his wonderful team went through the process of overhauling the entire backend platform over the course of the last year and a half or so, and launched that in December. So you'll see more cool and interesting and dynamic things coming out of Sandbox in the next few months. I will actually take this note or this time to note that we're doing a significant overhaul of developer.cisco.com. As you might have seen the homepage change in June. You're seeing improvements to search. We still have a little bit of ways to go. You're going to start to notice some changes to how API documentation is presented. And a lot of this is going down to, yes, we've had a lot of great 10 years. We have a lot of good content out there. But now we need to do a little bit of cleaning house. And, we're rethinking our design for our dev centers and doing a lot of good work within our team to really bring you the most consolidated and clean experience that you can expect from DevNet. So I'm really excited for all of the work that's underlying to go into that. And I just encourage everyone to keep hitting up developer.cisco.com to keep an eye on those changes coming. So really exciting there.
Right on. Actually, if you don't mind, I want to jump into this one. This is something that Kellyanne had mentioned in her segment, and I wanted to bring it up actually to Shannon, if I could. So, Shannon, Kellyanne mentioned trust when talking about where developers go when they're looking for resources. DevNet has historically been a trustworthy group. At least I hope everyone feels that way. Are there plans to continue to build out that trust, that trusted relationship, or in the community world, we'd call it like building a greater sense of belonging in the community? What are the plans for DevNet to do more of that?
Yeah, well, Jeff, you're actually, helping us with that on the community side. So part of that is back to you as well. But I mean, I think, one thing that our community requires, this is not a want to have, this is I must have this, is consistency. And so I think that the things that over the past 10 years that we've learned from our community are very quickly, that they are very encouraging with their feedback in ways on places that we need to be able to course correct here and there. And so that back and forth that we go through with the community really reinforces the trust that we are listening to them and we are making changes based upon that. And so I think that part of it, we want to maintain that core relationship. But as we expand into the future, there are going to be things that come at our community, even come at Cisco, at a pace that's going to put us on our heels, right? And so I think that what we would like to see is a little more of in the trenches, almost like, I hate to use the term because it's overused, but almost like a champions kind of thing, where we are having a little more of a round table, birds of a feather kind of relationship with our community members so that we can understand what they are dealing with way before we might actually see it as a vendor. And so I think that just in the community element, Jeff, to your question, is we want to get way more involved in the day-to-day of community feedback, not just come and talk to us at DevNet Zone at Cisco Live, right? And so that's one of the areas I would pinpoint that we want to focus on.
Awesome. And I'll note on that real quick before Matt jumps us into the next question is nothing to announce on that, what you just said, but coming soon, we will have announcements related to that. So I'm going to bury the lead a little bit, but we've got to leave something for next time,
So extending that concept of trust, Shannon, I am going to put you on the spot here, but I do feel like you have a notion on this. One of the questions in the chat, and I answered it a little bit, but I think it'd be cool to hear your ideas on it. I like the additional support that AI can bring, but I'm also a little concerned about the possibility of too much reliance on AI to have our backs. Do I sound paranoid?
You sound paranoid, but paranoid is a good thing, right? So we don't just want to just like trust the Borg, and so I think that this is an area unlike any area I have been. As of tomorrow, I am 24 years at Cisco, and even prior to my time at Cisco, I had a healthy view of let's, trust but verify. In this case, I really want a lot of verification, even prior to the trusting phase. I'd actually spin it around on its tail there. I think that unlike anything that I've ever experienced in tech, this is one of those things that go from a tool that can help me to a tool that can actually harm me technologically if I don't have guardrails around it. And so I think that from Cisco's point of view, if you look at what we're doing in kind of the two categories of AI, one is AI for your products. So this is adding chat, adding interactivity with an existing product set. So that's kind of a table stakes. But flipping it on the other side, and that is how are you actually making AI better, right? And so this is AI transport, AI networking, GPUs, all of these different things that are in that space. And I think that it is very important for all of us as a community, as a vendor, as a standards environments and so forth, to really take a look at the guardrail aspect of how we listen to and believe what AI gives us. And then once it's time to allow semi or fully autonomous actions from a tool set, that we are clearly understanding of what those guardrails are, what the checks and balances are through that. And so you are not overly paranoid. You are appropriately paranoid. And so I think that from Cisco's point of view, whether it's responsible AI, whether it's what we trickle in from AI in the sustainability realm, where we're actually looking at things over time, we're making recommendations on changes, and then ultimately one day may be able to take action on your behalf. Those things need to have proper checks and balances. And from a developer point of view, you are the ones that are writing the software that build the assistant, that build the agent, that call the API. And so there's no more of an important role in the AI framework than the folks that are on this call.
Yeah,
Right
thank
on.
you for that, Shannon.
Yeah, thanks, Shannon. And so, Matt, I've got one actually for you. I thought this was a really good one. And I know you mentioned it in the chat, but I thought it'd be really good for you to just say it out loud. Will there be a separate DevNet zone at Cisco Live US this year like we usually have? Someone said it's not listed on the Cisco Live website that they could see yet. But so that'd be really good since you're basically our Cisco Live person for DevNet.
Yeah, so I did answer in the chat, but I will expand on that a little bit here. We are going to have a DevNet zone at Cisco Live this year. We're actually doing a little bit of reimagination of the DevNet zone. So there will be similar elements involved, but we are also doing a number of engagements that will be as our lead calls moments of joy, I think is what she calls it. And so we'll have share your experience. We'll have some workshops. We'll have some classrooms, but we'll have a nice, tight, engaging experience, because it's going to be one of those situations where you're going to see a lot from DevNet that's going to be the quantity or the quality over the quantity going forward now. And the other thing that we're going to be doing that I think is going to be really exciting is we're really tying in nicely with the learning journey that we're working with Cisco U on. And so there's going to be a combined learning experience that's going to be moving forward with them. And it's really exciting because we have been trying to figure out what the best path is for our community and our learners and what content we can provide for people going forward. And we realized that working with Cisco U and helping, them at the beginning, or working with us at the beginning of the journey, and then bringing people over into solutions-based content in the DevNet zone is really the key to all this. So the DevNet zone is alive and well, and we're really excited to bring it to you guys in June.